going through the life of Jesus. We're on the life of Jesus, part 63, but we're in our little mini-series within that on our Christ-like conversation. So what we're doing is we're taking the Sermon on the Mount, looking at what Jesus said about speaking to people and interacting with people, taking that and saying, okay, when we get in a situation, a fallen situation with a fallen human being, where it's difficult to have a conversation, how do we practically live out what Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount? So and here's why. Let's start with this verse. This is from the very end of the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 7, verses 24 through 27. Therefore, everyone, now remember, he's referring back to what he just said in the Sermon on the Mount. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who builds his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house. Yet it did not fall, because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against the house, and it fell with a great crash. Now we always have to remember the context of that statement. It's right after saying there's some people who think they're going to get into heaven, but they're not.
Many people.
Yeah, so this is not about somebody having a good day versus somebody having a bad day. This is somebody having a good judgment day versus somebody having a bad judgment day.
A destination.
Okay? So, here's the question. Is it optional for us to do what's said in the Sermon on the Mount? No, it's not. That's important. So this is why when we talk about these Christ-like conversations, this is not optional.
Right.
That's not to say it's easy and you're going to get it right away. But if you can say, not really interested in that, there's a problem. Do you see what I mean? According to this verse, if you can look at how Christ said you're to interact with people and speak to people, and you say, that's too hard, I don't want anything to do with that, then we need to talk about whether you think on that day your house is going to stand or your house is going to fall. Okay, so here's from earlier in the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5, verses 38 through 42. You have heard that it was said, eye for eye and tooth for tooth. But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, hand over your coat as well. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. Give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. So, according to that part, who is responsible for taking the higher road where these conversations? We are. Right? When you have these conversations, is it going to be easy? No, it's not. That's what that verse is about. When you're interacting with a fallen person or interacting with a less mature believer, expect for them to be wrong. Expect them to do the wrong thing and to say the wrong thing. And you, as the more mature believer or as the believer, are expected to take the higher road, the Christ-like road, right? Okay, so what I've done, I'm not going to go back. So we've been going over this quite a bit, and I've been giving you the scripture to back this up. So what I've done now, though, I'm just going to give you this without all the scripture to back it up. You can go back and look at the last couple of weeks. It's all there, right? And what I'm starting to do is I'm starting to make an outline of this. And when we get done with this outline, I'm actually going to put it on our webpage as a page on the website, so that at any point in time, you're like, I've got one of these Christ-like conversations coming up. Because sometimes they spring up on you. Sometimes you know they're coming. Right? So if you know they're coming, you can just flip open the website, go to this page, and sit and look through this outline and be like, okay, I need to do this, and I need to be thinking about this, and I need to be thinking about this, and I need to think about what I'm going to say when this happens. Right? So here, let's just go through this outline, and then we're going to get to the end, and we're going to add another piece to this. Okay? So the first thing, number one, it is your job as a disciple of Jesus to establish or reestablish safety. Safety, and I'm glad that y'all are getting that. That's the first big thing that jumps in your mind, safety. You're creating safety so the other person feels safe to talk to you and to listen to you. Right? Say, like God reestablished safety in the garden by promising the Messiah, like Jesus established safety by coming into the world as a lowly human, by imitating the way Jesus spoke to people, and by keeping Jesus' command on how we are to speak to others, to one another. Right? You get that? That this is why it's our job to create safety. So number two, after safety, what's the other thing you need to be worried about? Purpose. Yes. So, as a disciple of Jesus, make sure you know what your purpose is in having a Christ-like conversation. So, whenever you know you're going into a conversation or one is sprung on you, stop, take a second, and ask yourself what the purpose is. Now, sometimes it doesn't come to you like that. Believe me, because I have some of these I have to sit and I've said at work before because I have to have these conversations with people at work, and I have to sit and think, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? What's my purpose? Right? What am I trying to accomplish here? Okay, so the first thing is the grand overall purpose of being the image of God by imitating and obeying Jesus as his disciple and attempting to help the other person to become a disciple of Jesus and be reconformed to the image of God as well. That's where we would like to get with everybody. Right? But before we can get to that, we have our immediate purpose. Right? And there's liable to be a lot of immediate purpose conversations before we ever get to that one big conversation. The immediate purpose of whatever the immediate issue at hand is, which must be worked through first in order to eventually get to the grand overall purpose. Right? A lot of people you can't go up to and let's talk about what it looks like for you to be reconformed to the image of God you originally created to be.
Most of the time.
They're like, dude, I'm mad at you because you didn't wash the dishes. You see what I mean? Or I'm mad at you because of what happened in our family 20 years ago. Or I'm mad at you because of what happened at work. Or whatever.
Yeah.
And we need to have a conversation about that first so that we can work towards what it looks like to be a disciple of Jesus. Okay. So, you got those two things in mind. Safety and purpose. So now you're actually going to start having the conversation. Or the conversation has started. Right? Pay attention to when safety is being compromised and or the situation is being escalated. Right? Either you're going in and you know this is going to be a Christ-like conversation, or you started having a conversation with somebody not expecting it to go south and all of a sudden it's going south. Right? And know it and watch for it. Either your voice and blood pressure is going up, or your jaw is getting clenched so you don't say what you want to say, or their voice and their blood pressure is going up, or their jaw is getting clenched and not saying what they want to say. Right? Look for silence or violence from the other person and or yourself. Right? So the next, if you have clearly violated respecting the other person, apologize. Whether it was you just immediately did it in this conversation, like your voice went up and you said what you wanted to say, and you go, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Apologize for it. Or if there's something in the past that you have done clearly that disrespected this person, apologize for it. That's first. Remember what Jesus said. Before you come and lay your gift before God, go and make it right with this person, then come back and lay your gift before God. Now, what if I haven't done anything wrong though? If you haven't done anything wrong but have been misunderstood, they think you did something wrong. Contrast in order to correct the misunderstanding. I don't want to blame you for everything. I don't want to have an argument. I don't want to make this worse than it is. I don't want to say that I've been perfect this whole time. I don't want to, whatever. I don't want to. I know you're thinking, and what you're saying is what you're thinking I'm trying to do is not what I'm trying to do. And then you follow that with, but I do want to. I do want to have a conversation about our finances. I do want to see if we can have a better relationship. I do want to see if we can work together and get done what needs to be done. Right? Okay. And now, in order to reestablish safety, so you've realized there's a safety problem. You've apologized if you need to apologize. You've contrasted to correct a misunderstanding. How do you go forward from there? In order to reestablish safety, establish a mutual purpose and or mutual respect. Okay, so now remember, mutual purpose is different from your original purpose. It may be the same, but there's a possibility that the mutual purpose is going to be different. Because why is it different? The other person has input on the mutual purpose. Do you see what I mean? You have your purpose in your mind, the mutual purpose the other person has input on.
It can't be mutual unless they share it.
Right. So remember, there's a difference between, I had a little time getting that in my head about why is he talking about purpose. Then I realized, they're talking about my purpose and then the mutual purpose between us. Right? So, first part, establishing a mutual purpose by CRIB, C-R-I-B. Number one, commit to finding a mutual purpose. Why would we need to commit?
It's not always easy. You gotta work,
It's hard.
it's hard.
It's hard. If you think, well, you know what, we're not agreeing on anything, we need to commit to a mutual purpose. Hey, would you like to commit to mutual, would you like for us to develop a mutual purpose? Right?
I got you a mutual purpose.
Right, exactly. So when they, okay, I'm sorry. I don't want to. I do want to. No, I really, I don't want to, but I do want to.
Yeah.
And that, that's a whole lot quicker than that.
Yeah.
I mean, a whole lot longer than that. That might be a day-long conversation. You see what I mean? That you commit, you realize that you have a purpose, that y'all don't have a mutual purpose. You realize that there's going to be some conversation just to get to developing a mutual purpose.
Right.
And that you've got to remain calm
Right.
to develop the mutual purpose.
Even if they're going for 10 minutes venting, and then they feel badly because you're not venting back,
Right.
You're praying for them.
Right. Yeah, it's just, if you don't commit to it, you're not going to do it.
No.
Right? And part of it is it's re-engaging your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because what happens when you first get into this? You just go back to old habits, the old way of doing things. And a lot of having these things in your mind of thinking purpose, thinking safety, thinking mutual purpose. If you're thinking, it stops you from being mad and going off or wanting to run away and hide. It re-engages your brain instead of just running on emotions.
That's right.
Right? You got to stop and think.
Right. You're taking the high ground, and the view is better from there.
Right.
You don't want to get involved in all that.
Right, yeah. Never wrestle a pig in the mud. You'll just get dirty and the pig enjoys it. Right?
That's
All right, so establish a mutual purpose. First, commit to finding a mutual purpose. And then recognize the difference between a strategy and the underlying purpose behind a strategy. Right? We talked about this before, like you have the deadbeat relative who wants money. And he wants it for the wrong thing. And in one side is I'm not going to give them money. The other side wants to give them money. Now, ultimately, you have the same purpose of you want to do what's right for them.
helpful.
Right, but you have two different strategies. We talked about even like that was different. That was having a different purpose. That was, so you see what I'm saying? Hey, you can have the same purpose. Other one's a little less like both of you are tired from work, tired of the world. Both of you want to just get away and stay away from the world. One of you wants to do it by sitting in the reclining chair. The other one wants to do it by going somewhere else. And then figure out it's not so much that I want to go somewhere else, or not so much that I want to sit in the reclining chair. It's that I'm done with the world for the day.
Right.
Is there something we can do together
Right.
and be done with the world for the day?
And that's an important skill to develop.
Right. Yeah. So it's not just it's not that we wanted different things. It's that we wanted to accomplish that thing by a different way. Right. So recognize that. So think through. So when you're trying to find that mutual purpose, check and make sure you didn't already have a mutual purpose. You were just trying to accomplish it by two different strategies. So recognize that. But what if? So anyway, so you may have the same purpose but are employing different strategies to accomplish the purpose. If so, agree on or develop a mutual purpose. Right. So if you figure out that you don't have a mutual purpose, you really do have two at odds purposes, right? I mean, really, truly do. You now have to invent a mutual purpose that is satisfactory to both parties if you both truly have different purposes, right? You're going to have to figure out, hey, I got this purpose, you got this purpose, we need to get along. Can we have a mutual purpose that we both can agree is satisfactory to both of us, right? Once you do that, either one of those, whether you figure out you got the same purpose and you need a new strategy, or whether you figure out you need a new mutual purpose, then you have to brainstorm to develop a mutual strategy to accomplish your new mutual purpose.
Right.
Does that make sense? It's not to figure out you got the same mutual purpose. Okay, did you stop and say, okay, how are we actually going to do that? Right?
We is the key.
We, exactly, we.
Yeah.
Right.
Mutual, the strategy can come from another source. The pool, when you make it safe for them to give their input, and then someone else to get their input, you can just say, it's all it is input.
Right.
Because why not consider another strategy if we can agree and it will benefit us both?
Right.
So you create a safety for dialogue, free
Right.
flow of meaning.
All right. So establishing mutual purpose. Right. So here's the thing. We talked about this. What if I have no respect for this person, whatever, they have no respect for me whatsoever? We've got to establish that. Right? So establishing mutual purpose. Are you, first take the plank out of your own eye, right? Are you speaking in such a way that the other person believes that you respect them?
That's important.
Right. I don't know what's wrong with them. They don't want to talk to me. Well, you talk to them like they're 4. You know what I mean? Would you, if you were them, would you talk to you?
The tone of voice, it's the facial expressions, the
Right.
body language.
Right. I have to be real careful this because of my size and because of my volume.
Be intimidating.
It's like the Sasquatch is going to eat me.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to him. Right? So I have to try and tone down. I have to physically stand back because my size, I can't get so close to people because I'm so on top of them.
Yeah.
I have to physically step back. I have to quiet myself down. I have to take a body posture that's not threatening.
Right.
You know, I have to, every time I have any one of these conversations, I have to physically think about that because just my size and my volume alone is threatening,
Right.
right? And so I have to think about that. Okay, so number 2, if you do not show respect to a person, they will not have respect for you. Remember, this is where Jesus says that by however you judge people, same way by whatever measure you judge people, they will judge you. Right? If you don't show somebody respect, why would you expect them to show you respect? If you have no other reason to respect someone, remember that they are an image bearer of God that has the potential for redemption and reconforming to His image. And always remember Paul the Apostle.
That's so important.
Right? Because we talk about, well, Jesus, Jesus didn't always talk to everybody like this. When He talked to the Pharisees, He talked like this. And yeah, He did. And Paul the Apostle was a Pharisee. Right? There are these people who are very, very rough to talk to, but one out of how many ever might be Paul the Apostle.
And if it's just one.
If
it
it's
was
just
all
one,
worth
right.
it.
Right.
Make sure you've put in the effort to find out. You may get into this conversation and figure out they're not going to have dialogue. They may not. But it may take a while to get to that point, right? So before you wash your hands of them, really make sure you've done what you should do. Take the plank out of your own eye first, right?
You pointed out on the previous Sunday, the road to Damascus, God, through Christ, had a Christ-like
Right.
conversation with Saul of Tarsus.
Right.
And if he did,
Right.
who are we?
Yeah, you look at how Paul was converted. It's through God coming. God could have done a whole lot worse than just knock him off his donkey and blind him.
Yeah.
That was the nicest thing He could do to him. Right? In the end, He sends Ananias to speak with him.
And all of them had
Ananias-
Christ-like conversations.
Ananias, I got that name.
Ananias and Cornelius
Yeah. So he has these
and
guys.
Peter. All 3 of them had.
And so you see this. All right, so let's go on to this one trick I told you to do. Look into the other person's eyes and memorize their eye color.
Okay.
Right? Think about that. So in our culture, now don't do this in Japan necessarily. In our culture, looking in somebody's eyes is a sign of respect.
Right.
Refusing to look in somebody's eyes is a sign of disrespect. Right? Look them in the eyes. Take the time to notice their eye color, and it should bring this to mind. Take the plank out of my own eye first.
Amen.
Right? Because it's humanizing. Because when you look somebody in the eyes and you think about what color their eyes are, you all of a sudden you realize, oh, there's a human being right there. You know what I mean? And you look beyond their facial expression and you see eyes, and it's the same kind of eyes that you got.
That's right.
They're the same thing that I am. Right? So if you ever can't talk to somebody, stop, look them in the eyes, and just to make sure you're looking, ask yourself, what's their eye color? You know what I mean? Because that's an interesting thing about human beings is we have all these different eye colors. Right?
Amen.
All right. So once you've done that, so that's establishing mutual respect. Right? So now, once you've got to establish or reestablish, so you're having this conversation, so throughout the conversation, just because you've established or reestablished safety, does that mean it's just going to stay there?
No.
Because what can happen? Something else can come up in the conversation, right? So you've got to constantly, throughout the conversation, be thinking about reestablishing safety if it ever becomes at risk again, right? So, establish or reestablish safety in order to have the free flow of information into the pool of shared meaning. That's what Stan was talking about. There's this place in between you, and we'll get to the next thing here. On the next page, if you look on the next page, there's that difference between what I know, what you know, and what we know. Right? And if I'm talking to you about what I know, but you don't know what I know, and you're talking to me about what you know, but I don't know what you know, is this a very constructive conversation?
No.
Really, the conversation needs to be about what we both know. And we can't have a conversation about what we both know if I don't tell you what I know. And if I don't tell you what I know in such a way that you can listen to it. Right?
Amen.
So, realize there's a difference between that, and you want to neither withhold information from the other person or force information into it. It's got to be a free flow and a reciprocal flow. Because if I'm just flooding it, what is that going to do to you?
Overwhelmed.
Yeah, and that's my biggest problem is I like to flood it. I'm like, you want some information? I got some information for you, right? Because as I've been called before in my life, I'm a fountain of useless information, right? If you want some information, I can give you some, and you can ask my wife. At some point, it's just she has no idea what I'm saying, and I'm still saying it, walking around behind her in the house, and she's like, you know. So that's a hard lesson. I learned this the hard way, right? All right. So we want clear, honest, open communication. This is from Jesus, from the Sermon on the Mount. All you need to say is simply yes or no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one. That's important. That's important, right? So one of my because of my creativity, I'm an extremely good liar. Right? I learned this when I was a kid. I'm an extremely good liar. That's nothing to be proud of. You know where that comes from?
The evil one.
From Satan.
He's the best.
Right. So I have to be very conscious that I tell the truth. Right? I have to be very conscious of that. Because even if it's just, I might think it might be funny. When I was a kid, I did think it was funny. Right? But at some point I had to go, just because I'm good at that doesn't mean I should be doing that. In fact, there's no reason for me to do that. There's absolutely none. Right? And it's part of what it is, like I said, it's just creativity. I can make up stories really well, and I can write stories really well, or I can tell them really well too. Right? All right. So this is the question you'd ask. Why would you not want to speak in clear, straightforward manner?
We're going to keep the peace. That's one of the reasons you just...
Okay, one, trying to keep the peace, but does it really keep the peace?
It's a false
not in the long
peace.
run.
No.
It's saying peace when there is no real peace.
Now, take it on the other side of that. What's some other reasons you might not want to give all the information?
It can hurt some.
It's going to
It might hurt someone. What else?
They can't handle it.
What if you're just being shady? Well, there's some stuff you just don't want them to know. You see my point? Open, honest conversation. I might have to admit to something. And then there's people, like I said, I know this because I'm one of them. It's kind of fun to mess with the truth with some people sometimes. Right? You ever seen anybody who does that, messes with the truth with somebody just to see how people react? That's a no-no. Don't do it. Don't withhold information because you're shady and you don't want them to know what you're up to. Right? Don't withhold information just to see how they react. Don't withhold information to get the better of them. Right? Because we do that, don't we? That's the downside of it. Sometimes we do it because we don't want to hurt them. We don't want to cause a bigger argument. Sometimes we do it out of meanness. Right? There's two sides to it. You know what I mean? And sometimes we share too much information out of meanness. Then sometimes we withhold information out of meanness. Right? And so again, because we can't have this open, honest conversation, we can only really, truly have an honest conversation about what we both know. Right? And I can only put into that pool in such a way that you feel safe to reciprocate putting in it. If I'm the only one dumping into that pool, you're going to withhold. Right? All right, so let's add the next piece that we have. So everybody kind of got that. Even if you don't have it memorized yet, again, I'm going to put this stuff on the website. I'm going to have a page when we get through this outline. I might go ahead and put the incomplete outline on there so it'll be on there so you can go back and look at it. So you're in this conversation, right? You've done these things. You realize, okay, I'm responsible for safety. I know what my purpose is, right? If I needed to apologize, I apologized. If I needed to contrast, I contrasted. Now I've got to work through with them, creating a mutual purpose. I got to create mutual respect so that we can create a mutual purpose. I'm working through that. We're creating a mutual purpose. Then after we create a mutual purpose, we're working towards having a strategy. But the whole time doing this, I've got to remain calm. Right? So let's go on to this next thing Jesus said. Matthew 5, 21 through 26. You have heard that it was said to people long ago, you shall not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Catch that. Anybody who's angry. Again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, Raka, is answerable to the court. Anyone who says, you fool, will be in danger of hellfire. Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar, and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them, then come and offer your gift. Settle matters quickly with your adversary who's taking you to court. Do it while you are still together on the way, or your adversary may hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you may be thrown into prison. Truly I tell you, you will not get out until you have paid the last penny. So don't be angry.
But if you
Because
don't
when you're angry, it escalates it, and the consequences will be greater than you think they are. That's what he says, okay? Now, let me ask you, you ever had this situation where somebody said and did something, and you misinterpreted it and got angry, but then when you found out that they really didn't mean what you thought they meant, or they really didn't do what you thought they did? Has anybody ever had that? Okay. Did they make you angry?
No.
No. Your interpretation of what they did made you angry. Who made you angry? You did.
Negative perception.
Okay, so here's the big thing. Who then is the only person who can make you angry?
You
Me.
Satan.
Now, I ain't telling you this is easy.
pulled a log out of your eye.
Right. Right. Okay. Now, do you see what I'm saying? Only you, by how you interpret what is going on, and by you responding to the chemicals rushing through your brain, decides to be angry. That is a very important truth to remember, because I can tell you, having had learned this, there's been several times over the last couple of weeks, I got really, really angry, and you're the only one making yourself angry.
That makes it worse.
But well, it does, but it shut me up.
Yeah.
It shut me up. Instead of going on and on and on about how angry I was, I had to stop and say, Kurt, you're the only one making yourself angry. Now here's the one that gets me, not at people, but at things. I get when things don't work the way things should work. Right? Mechanical things.
It's not perfect.
Right, it's a fallen world. What are you angry about, Kurt? You know it's a fallen world. You know everything doesn't break. You know everything breaks sooner or later. Why are you angry? You know that.
But it's not supposed to.
Right, but it does. But it does, don't it? And so there's been several times in the last couple of weeks I've had that conversation with myself where I wasn't mad at a person. I was mad at a thing because it didn't work the way it was supposed to work. And I had to talk myself down and say, Kurt, you know good and well that this is a fallen, broken world and that things break. You know that. You preach that. You know it. Why are you angry about it? And I had to talk myself down from it. Right? Same thing. You know you're dealing with fallen, broken people. You know you are.
And they're going to say things and do things.
And they're going to make you angry. Or they're going to cause your body to produce chemicals. Right? It's just chemicals. That's another thing. It's just chemicals. They're going to do things which in a fallen, broken world causes your body to produce chemicals in a way that it wasn't originally designed to produce them. And you're going to interpret that as anger. And you're going to interpret that as their actions caused me to be angry. Not true. You decided to be angry.
It's how you mentally process and respond.
Right. And now, again, you're not going to get over that like this. I can tell you right now, because I'm working on this, and you don't get over that like this. Right? But start having the conversation with yourself. That's what I've been finding. The more and more I'm having the conversation with myself, the more and more I'm getting control of it. Do you see what I'm saying? Start having that conversation with yourself, and here's what to do. So here's claim number one. Emotions don't settle upon you like a fog. Didn't just come out of nowhere. They are not foisted upon you by others. No matter how comfortable it might make you feel saying it, others don't make you mad. You make you mad. You make you scared, annoyed, or insulted. Only you can create your emotions.
Don't you think a lot is done through set scenarios?
Right.
You think this is what's going to happen, and you get yourself all anxious
You've
about
been conditioned.
Yes.
So this is a big thing. You've been conditioned. You're going to start. This is why you're not going to get over it. You've been conditioned for however long you've been alive. That's how long you've been conditioned. You're going to start through the power of the Holy Spirit, through the power of Scripture, through the power of following Jesus and His disciple. You're going to start reconditioning your mind to think differently about when you are in these situations. Now, now, all of us right now are realizing how hard this is, right? Right? The other thing to keep in your mind is to realize how awesome it would be. Right? Think about how awesome it would be to not be controlled by those chemicals running through your brain. Think about it.
And to think biblically, to think
Right.
Christ-like. Because as a man thinks in his heart, so is he outwardly.
Right. Start thinking. So claim number two. Once you've created your upset emotions, you have two options. You can act on them, and that's not act on them doing it, but you act on them. You take them under control. Right? Once you've created your upset emotions, you have two options. You can act on them or be acted on by them. That is, when it comes to strong emotions, you either find a way to master them or fall hostage to them. I tried to say this a little better in my way. Either you take control of your emotions or your emotions take control of you. So realize that when you're in this situation, where you're in one of these conversations, that you've been conditioned to let your emotions take control of you. As a disciple of Jesus, you're going to begin through thinking about these things that Jesus said, you're going to begin to take control of your emotions. Right? I'm not going to let chemicals running through my brain decide what I do and do not do. I'm not going to let the fallenness of another person and the fallenness of my flesh decide what I do and what I do not do. Does that make sense? I, as a disciple of Jesus, am going to allow the Holy Spirit, the words of Jesus, and the image of God within me decide what I'm going to do. And it ain't easy. It ain't going to be overnight. But this is why we're going so slowly through this. So I'm trying to give you one piece at a time. Right? And y'all got these pieces of safety, purpose, establishing a mutual purpose, and mutual safety, mutual strategies. But the whole time you're doing that, you're going to have chemicals shooting in your brain. Right? And those chemicals shooting in your brain are going to want to create emotions. And you're going to have to think about what's going on, and think about what Jesus said, and think about the end result. That's why it's so important to have that purpose in mind. Think about that end result. How awesome it would be to accomplish that end result. And I'm not going to accomplish that end result if I start giving in to my emotions and letting my emotions tell me what to do.
We have the power of the Holy Spirit
Right.
to assist us, and self-control is one of the fruits of the Spirit, not of us.
Right.
So he gives us the ability to control.
Right, and that's the other thing. If you're saved,
Yeah.
if you're saved, you have the ability to do this.
We do, through Christ, there's no doubt.
Okay, you have it. Now I ain't saying you got it right now. It ain't like you're pal, but you do have it. It's there. You know, I mean, again, something was telling me when I got mad over something I shouldn't have got mad at. You shouldn't be getting mad over that.
That's right.
That wasn't Kurt. Kurt enjoys being mad over things like that. Right? Something was telling you it was the power of the Holy Spirit. All right, so this is one other one too important to remember when you're thinking about, when you're trying to control your emotions. Do not judge, or you too will be judged. Whenever, what are your emotions going to start making you want to do when you're in the conversation with this person?
Fight or flight.
Okay, yeah, and what you're going to start thinking about that person?
They're less than you.
Right, you're going to start projecting your emotions onto them.
Letting him have it.
This is all their fault. They're creating these emotions within me. So what you're doing is you're judging them. Now what are they going to do back towards you?
Some get judged too.
Right. So you got to be the first one not to judge and say, no, they're not creating these emotions. I'm creating these emotions. That's taking the plank out of my own eye. Right? So for the same way you judge others, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in yours? What do we tend to do? All I tend to do is looking at what he's doing to make me mad.
Well,
Is that not what we get to in these conversations?
That's about as worldly as it gets.
And that's it, and that really is. All I'm thinking about was what they're doing to make me mad, and I'm gonna stop thinking about what they're doing. You know, I'm gonna stop looking at the sawdust in their eye, and I'm gonna start thinking, okay, what am I doing over on this end? I'm allowing my emotions to control me. I'm not creating safety. I'm not showing them respect. I'm not helping them find a mutual purpose between us. I'm not helping them find a mutual strategy between us. And I'm not going to accomplish my goal, my immediate purpose, and I'm definitely not going to accomplish the purpose of teaching them to be the image of God.
No, as Todd said, it's worldly. It's the normal
Right.
worldly mode of operation. And if we
Right.
can show them the Christ
Right,
way, that is a great testimony.
right. This is what we say. So how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your own eye, when all the time there's a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite. That's what we're talking about. Worldliness. First take the plank out of your own eye, then you will see clearly to remove the speck of your brother's eye. In other words, then you will see clearly how to help them.
Amen.
Right? Now, here's the thing. So what happens when you blow it? See, here, I ain't got all this down yet. You ain't got all this
Be
down
honest,
yet.
it's just-
Right? Part of it is start having the conversation in your brain. This is the big thing. Start having these conversations in your brain. I mean, that's where we're at right now. Start realizing, okay, I realize something different needs to be had here. What needs to be happening here? Then, what do you do blow it? What do you need to go do? Apologize. Say, hey, you know, the way I spoke to you the other day, I had a girl come to me and she did this. This is an unbeliever. Unbeliever can do this, you can do this.
Amen.
She came to me and because she snapped the other day over something, and she said, hey, I just want to come apologize to you. I didn't mean to snap like that. I said, you know, truthfully, I said, I do appreciate your apology. I really do. I thank you for your apology. But I said, one thing I would ask of you, though, is, one, you're fine to snap at me. If you need to yell at somebody, come yell at me. Be careful. And I said, well, what I need you to do is I need you to not be careful. I need you to be careful about doing that around other people, because she snapped at somebody else and they were offended. And I said, I need you not to do that around other people. I said, if you feel like you need to go off on somebody, come go off on me. You know, I said, I can take it. You know, come go off on me if you need to go off on somebody. You know, I said, I'm the one. If she's an unbeliever, she can come apologize to me for snapping at me. Hey, you a believer can go apologize to somebody for snapping at them. Right? But then, see, that opened it up. So now I started trying to have this Christ-like conversation with her about saying, hey, you know, I appreciate your apology. I appreciate it. You know, but I want you to know that this is right here with me is the safe place to come have a conversation about what's going on. That I'm not going to snap back at you. Even when you snap at me, I'm not going to snap back at you.
what potential exists. for
Right.
Those kind of ongoing relationships and conversations.
Right. See, that's what we need to be working on.